This is Margaret Ann Windsor, Peggy Ed Dempsey's name I have to use. I was kidnapped from Buckingham Palace and brought to this country, Moulton, Alabama, given the name of a twin, Peggy Ann Dempsey. I married a Childers. And the twins were dead. They were born out of wedlock way back then. Their mother killed them. And I lived with my identity stolen, given their name. And I grew up using that name. And I wrote a book, medical malpractice book about mind control, 76 to 80, April Fool's Day of 80, to put antifreeze in me. And Larry Flint was of Hustler magazine, was brought into Lawrenceville, nearby Marietta, Georgia, where I was doing the book, and he was shot and his attorney killed. And the person that did that was programmed under mind control and programmed to do it. Now I'm going to jump forward to 83 when Larry McDonald, the doctor congressman I wrote about in the book, the plane he was on, KAL, went down. I was shot down by the Soviets when it veered into their airspace. I was flown out to Flint and to replace him in a special election, Larry McDonald, but Buddy Darden, the former DA, Cobb County, and I liked Buddy Darden. I thought he was one of the few decent people, but anyway, I'm getting off. He was there in the county, Marietta, Cobb County, where Warren and Rosina Matthews that I wrote about were murdered, and mind control was used in that. But anyway, what I wanted to say is I've just put a tape up and it does me no good. My illness has been used against me to make me run from one place to the other when I have the money to get a place. I'm allergic to chemicals. I have an immune disorder, and when I'm force-fed, especially in a home or a room that I can't get, I sleep in here. I go from here to another place, and the same thing's going to happen. The agency doing this of law enforcement get stuff on people, on the maintenance guy, on the owners, whether it's Internal Revenue after them or whatever. The kids have committed a crime. Everybody's got something to hide. So that's what they've used, and I put this on Facebook and tape and given names and everything. So what I wanted to get to here is the Hannah Graham next door. They've supposedly found her body. She's from England, as I am. And it's who I am and who kidnapped me and what they've done with me is why the press that's controlled by the Rockefellers that have kidnapped me, and the Kennedys, and my own Uncle George VI, they won't tell it. It is so atrocious that not that the people here in this country care. It would shame them. They pretend to be one thing when they're another. They've got freebies in this country that they stole from me and the British and Germans. And by the way, real quick, I want to put this in. The United States has now gone in with its Ebola into Africa, which was a British, and some of my family who were monarchs, Denmark, so on, had colonies there, territory in Africa. But the United States has taken over everything, if you care to look. My point at this moment is, where do they stand with with Russia, with China? I'm sorry, with China. If you, I've been soaked in chemicals all night, and I'm trying to make this video, all right? Because it could kill me, I have no doubt. But the United States is so indebted to China. Who's feeding the United States military that they can go out and do all these things? They've gotten all the countries engaged in going after ISIS. When the United States, through mind control and through genetically engineering viruses, Ebola and AIDS, has under the pretext going into Africa and other countries as a friend when they orchestrated the whole mess they pretend to go in and help with. So how does the United States come off owing China so much. Um, I mean, actually, China ends up owning this armed forces, don't they, and everything here. So who does the United States work for, or vice versa? Now I wanted to say this about the mind control murders. I wrote about them in '76 till they put antifreeze in me, April Fool's Day of '80. And then I was illegally taken across the state line, worked for the district attorney, Fred Simpson, in Madison County, Huntsville, Alabama, where NASA is. Now I want to fast forward to here so I can get this on the tape. Hannah Graham's body, they're inferring that, was found out in the way out in the forest on the side of the road in a creek bed. This is where this country put me, on the side of the road, and that's why I ended up in the mountain here in a tent, trying to just have a place to live and get off the road and not be killed and murdered and raped like she has been, evidently. But I want to say this. Morgan Harrington, they're linking a disguised program, Jesse Matthews, to kill. And they all know it. And the murders aren't going to stop until they address who's committing them. Jesse Matthews is a victim of mind control, so they're just going to program somebody else to go out and kill. My point at this, right at the moment, is I live, and this is where I'm getting gassed, at the Stay at Inn. It's owned by the Patels and the Shaws, who have become very wealthy since I came here. And I've been run all over Roanoke, gassed. They all know it. Nobody does a damn thing to help me. So I'm the legal monarch of Great Britain, and I'm sitting here making this video. And my thing is, Hannah Graham, I am so sorry she got drawn into it. The Brits have suffered so much. But what if you look at this, her abduction and finding her body is all over the national press and everything. They've got all kinds of law enforcement, the vehicles. They have looked for over a month, and the University of Virginia students, this outpouring that looks like love. You tell me how I can sit here after all these years, I'm 75 years old, still getting soaked with fumes. Law enforcement is involved. I've told all this, and they know it about mind control. They're afraid of it themselves, the local and state law enforcement. So you tell me this showing is a bunch of poppycock. They don't give a rat's about Hannah Graham any more than they do me. And this will be covered up in Morgan Harrington's family. Her father's a psychiatrist, and her mother will always tell you they're into mental health. They have a beautiful home, not very far from me, where they've watched me walk and crawl up the side of the mountain close to them and live and beg and starve and freeze. And believe me, they know all this. And I wanted to get that in because people had options. They could have marched. And here's Hannah now. Well, that's the Ebola, excuse me. It was Hannah too. But my point is that Alexis Murphy is another one that's tied to this specific. I don't know. Randy Taylor's been, her body hadn't been found either, but they've got Randy Taylor in jail for her murder. She's one of them. But there's a long list, but those three fit into the last few years. And I guess the point I wanted to make is Channel 7 is coming on here, Channel 10 here, and 13. All these local know the truth. They will not talk to me. They don't want to hear anything I have to say. So I'm going to leave it at that because they're all living good. They go home to their families. And what's going to happen with Hannah Graham? They're going to prosecute a man who's programmed, and somebody else will be programmed to take up where he left off. And these people all know it around here, especially, and he's a psychiatrist, so it scares the heck out of me. And all they have to do is pick